guys, welcome to the very first Pundits podcast. It's taken us quite some time to get to this point, but we're here now. We just, for the listeners out there and those of you watching, we weren't going to do Springbok player ratings this week, but there's been some questions on Twitter about it, and guys are obviously missing it. So we thought we'd do a quick little ratings video for you guys. We've got Sean over there, Sharky. You guys might know him better as Judge Rugby, the judge. Over here we've got Keegan Kruger. Most of you guys will know him as my right-hand man with the Pundits, and then myself, Ryan Wallace, who has very little rugby knowledge, but luckily I've got these two here to guide me through. So I think let's jump into it, guys. Good performance I thought this weekend from South Africa, beating Australia, of course, 35 to 17, and getting the Rugby Championship off to a good start. What was your thoughts on the game?
Well, I'm pretty happy with it. I mean, there's a lot of complaints in terms of the Wallaby squad, and they're not up to scratch, so kind of disregard the result, but we still scored 5 tries. We got a bonus point win. We also answered a lot more questions with the squad that we picked, and had a better look at what we have to offer in the future, and not necessarily for the World Cup, but from a squad base moving on, because there's life after Rugby World Cup 2019, let's be honest, and everyone kind of gets stunted there. But when you look beyond that, we've got the Lions coming through in 2021, so I think we answered a lot of questions, and most of them pretty positive.
Yeah, I think from my side, I think we were able to sort of show the world that we've got a bit of a squad now, which was a bit of a problem, I think, under Alistair. We weren't too sure who was those fringe players.
Yeah.
But I think we showed sort of everyone that we've got a bit of a squad. There is a plan, which is always great.
Sure. We haven't seen that
for a while, yeah.
I suppose you can never complain when your B team or effective B team beats a big nation.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think for me, a lot of people called this a B team, but I don't know if it was quite a B team, because there's quite a lot of first team players in that squad. Yes, we did trial a few people, and I think that's what you want in a World Cup here. You want to trial people and see what they can do under pressure. But yeah, I think it's job done at the end of the day. We did the job, what was asked from us. I think most players put up their hands and got the win. I don't think you can ask for anything more than that in a World Cup year.
No, I think I agree from the squad point of view, but we've got to understand that Russie's had less than 2 years to kind of put this sort of in motion, which is very difficult if you look at all the powerhouses and all the realistic contenders. And I'm not saying we're not, but if you look at all the contenders, their coaches have been around for longer than 4 years, barring England. It takes a lot. You've got to introduce a new defensive system, new people, new players, new discussions, new words, new things. Every coach wants to wipe the slate clean and redo it. So I think what Russie's doing, and the fact that he's the director of rugby and he's going to still be on when we have a new coach, is huge for us. We're succession planning, and if you guys follow me on Twitter, you must hate the phrase because I talk about it all the time, but we need a future. And the only way we're going to create a future is by all speaking the same language for a long period of time. And I think that's what's happening now. We're creating a legacy. We've brought back the love for the Springboks, and guys want to play for the brand and for the country again. And it's huge.
Cool. Right, so let's get on. Starting off with a big man up front, the Beast. What did we make of his performance this week?
I'm very happy. If there's any downside to what the Beast does, it's his carries over the gain line. I think maybe he could carry a little bit further, but he scrums well. He's got a wealth of experience. He brings the players out around him. He does a good job. Defensively, he's very handy. If you look at his stats, straight off the bat, you think maybe he didn't have a great game, but I think he's invaluable, and he's done his job. There are very few players in the world that can say that they've dominated the Beast at scrum time. And what do you want from your front rowers? You want them to do their primary job, which is scrumming, and help at the lineouts, and then if they can do anything else, they can add value. So I think we're in a good space. I think I'd give him probably a 6.5 out of 10.
Yeah, for me, he's a 6.5, 7, maybe 8 out of 10 every week. You know what you're going to get from him. I think if there's a downside of Beast at the moment, we don't see him for longer than 45 minutes, if that's the downside. But I think that's management. I think they're trying to keep him as fresh as possible to the World Cup, and which is fine. I have no issues with that. If not Beast, who else? And I always ask that question. It's like, there's no one else. So I'm happy with him. I'm happy with what he contributes to the game. When he hits big.
Yeah.
When he scrums, he holds his man. And the guy's a servant. I mean, there's nothing more that we can really ask for a guy, especially at that age as well. Like, he's coming along in years. He's got a lot of, like, physicality in him. And he's taken a lot of knocks in his life. Like, if you look about it. I don't think we can ask anything. If we can get 50 minutes from Beast every World Cup game, I think that is more than enough.
I think also, like, I really like to talk, like, to sort of build on that succession planning. I like to talk squads.
Yeah.
From a squad point of view, like, we've got Kitshoff and we've got the Beast. Like, we're really in a really massively good space. And then we've got a couple of other guys coming through, and we've got Lisa Walker coming through. So, like, from a squad point of view, we're in a good space. We've got Kitshoff, who does carry better and does do a lot of other work. And he's also starting to dominate at scrum time. So I think we're in a great space, and Beast must stay. He must stay for the World Cup. And if he carries through for the Lions tour and is your third choice, then I'm happy too, you know.
Of a good old word in South Africa, we like to call it privilege these days. I think we're privileged in the front row.
True story.
Right, so next up we've got Bongi Mbonambi.
Yeah, listen, he missed his first line-out, and then there was another line-out miss, which I think literally went through Lurt's hands. Other than that, line-outs were pretty handy, and I think that's been our biggest issue a lot of the way with our hookers. Malcolm Marx has got better, but I thought Bongi definitely, I think he adds a lot of value. Like, people watch Bongi Mbonambi and expect a Malcolm Marx performance, but, like, he's not that player. So he's a real tight 5 hooker. And he does a lot of that graft, that dirty work, you know, that, like, the dark arts. And I was very happy with him. I have no issues with his playing. So I'm gonna give him about a 7. I thought he was very handy. He did his job, and we had a lot of other guys that could carry and do multiple other jobs in our pack. So I'm happy to give him a 7. I thought he was pretty good.
Yeah, he's a solid 7 for me. I think his basics he does well. What you expect from a hooker, he does well. Like, his line-out throws are usually spot on. He hits hard at ruck time. You know, the little fringes, tackling around the fringes, he does more than what's expected from a hooker, I think. So I don't think we can complain, like, with what he's shown us. 7 out of 10 for me, every day of the week, I think. Yeah, that's a simple one for me, I think.
Cool. Next up, we've got old Trevor. How did you guys rate him, Keegan?
Oh, I don't know. I'd never know what to expect from Trevor, really. Like, he's a weird one for me. Usually scrums well. Like, I don't have a problem with Trevor scrumming, but it's just that if I look at other props playing in his position, and I look at, like, France, and I look at things like that, France is probably not the greatest one to pick, because fitness-wise, we're always worried about him and things like that. Is what else does Trevor bring? But what else do you expect from Trevor? Trevor scrums well, so he does his job well. And for me, he's a 6 out of 10. Maybe that's a little too low. Maybe a 6.5, 7 out of 10 as well every week. And I think Trevor did his job. He held out for as long as he can in the match, and I'm happy with that. If the bench does its job after Trevor, keeps the momentum, I'm happy with that. Like, yeah, he's a weird one for me. I really don't know what to expect from him week in and week out. But what I've seen from Trevor doesn't say he's not doing a job. Like, he does his job for me. It's a weird one. I don't know how to rate him, really. That's what I say. 7 out of 10. He does his job well enough, and you sort of know he's going to give that every week for you, which I'm happy with.
Yeah, I think from a consistency point of view, but like I'm gonna give him a comfortable 7 out of 10. I thought he was pretty handy. Looking at the forward to the World Cup, like he plays both sides of the scrum, so he's gonna fill in that gap for us, and he's pretty handy. And I think you notice, if you notice a prop, he's probably not doing a great job. Like so like we haven't really noticed, like he didn't do anything like off the mark and just went boss, you know. So I'm quite happy with it. I'd give him a 7 easily. Thought he scrummed pretty well. I thought our starting front row did a little bit better than the bench, but you know, we'll get onto them. And I was very happy with it. I mean, up against Slipper and Kepu, like they're pretty handy scrummages. So I thought we handled ourselves well. 7 out of 10.
Cool. Next up, we've got the big man Eben.
Yeah, I thought it was one of those games where Eben just sort of showed the world why he's one of the best number 4s in the world. I mean, like he led the side well. I thought I always get a bit weary when I see Eben being made Springbok captain.
Sure.
I never quite know if it's going to affect his performances, or you know, he tries to do too much. He steers away from his job almost in a way. But for me, it almost like he didn't know Eben was captain. He did his job perfectly. For me, 7 out of 10 performance again for me. Like, we probably expect a little bit more from him at times, especially when it comes to clearing rucks and things like that. But I thought to last as well, I think he played a full 80, if I can remember. And for me, at the end of the day, like, did his job, captained really well, kept everyone calm. There wasn't too much argy-bargy around when it comes to him. 7 out of 10, I don't think we expect anything more. Well, we expect more from Eben, but I don't think you can expect anything more from a game like that where he was made captain and had to deal with a whole bunch of everything else around him.
Yeah, I'm with you on 7. I thought he was pretty handy. I think you mess with the balance of Eben's style of playing by making him captain. Like, would you make Bucky's Butter captain? No, because you really want him to be aggressive and do that hard work. And we didn't have anyone there. Like, Reinhard Elstad is normally that guy. Like, he's happy to get involved, but he was on Bork debut. So you needed Eben to do that. And we were in a fortunate place where we didn't need that because we were dominating them up front pretty well. So we didn't really need to get down and dirty. I thought, like, from a he carried well. I thought he scrummed well. I thought his lines were pretty decent. Happy with 7. Good captaincy. I'm a massive fan of having Eben play his aggression role and having Siya Kolisi as captain. I think the two of them have a connection that's like a lot of people don't have. And I think that works quite nicely. They can play good cop, bad cop together. So, I thought captaincy-wise, result-wise, like, you can't really complain too much, and he didn't put a foot wrong. It is his first big game in a long time. And he's one of the few guys that are going to be penned into the World Cup side on condition that they can manage and get fit again. And he hasn't played for so long. Stormers had a long layoff and then came back and had another long layoff. So he needs to play, and that's why he's starting this weekend again against the All Blacks. So it's going to be very interesting to see how he manages it, and I hope that he doesn't play a full 80 this weekend. Just from a player management point of view, not from a performance point of view. I think we kind of need to reel it in. I'm a bit worried that we push him too hard too soon.
All right, moving on then, we've got Loet de Jager.
So Loet is one of our best 5s. Like, he's incredible, and I know Mostert is up there and everything, but I think Loet is incredible. Loet gets through a truckload of work. He's incredible at the lineouts, and I think he slightly edges Mostert at the lineouts, to be honest. Got through a lot of work, also coming back from injury, and also needed to perform on Saturday to kind of sort of put his hand up again and say, listen, I'm properly in the running for the World Cup place. So I thought he was pretty good. He did miss that one lineout that hit him square on the beak, so probably has to work on that a little bit. But it's very difficult to fault him on his game, so I'm gonna go 7. He should probably get a 7.5, but I'm gonna go 7.
Yeah, I'm happy with 7 as
just
well.
Because of the shot on the beat.
I'll take that. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm happy with 7 as well. Went through a truck of defensive work, as usual. Was it 14 tackles?
Okay, 7.5.
Yeah. Maybe let's give him 7.5.
Didn't miss one either.
Didn't miss one either. I thought he was, line-up time, like I say, except for the one hit him on the beak, he was solid. I think when I see Luert, I expect a bit more carries at times. He made 5 for the weekend. Not bad. Not saying it's terrible, but I'm saying you normally expect him to carry a little bit more. He's normally the first one, that first receiver taking ball up. But other than that, 14 tackles in a game, in an international game. Hasn't played probably in quite a while that I think.
Sure.
Luert has played in a test, which I think it's quite.
But also missed a lot of Super Rugby. Yeah?
Missed a lot of Super Rugby. First game back, I think 7.5 is brilliant for his standards. Coming back after a long layoff, I don't think we could ask anything more from him. And for me, he's one of the 3 definites going to the World Cup when it comes to lock time. I don't think there's too many people that's going to argue with that.
Yeah, it's between him and Mostert, I feel. It's a big shot, and it's a good one. I agree. I think he's a little bit more solid.
But up next, we've got number 6, Reinhard Elstad.
I'm gonna start.
That's a first.
You
guys are fighting over who's starting.
Yeah, I'm a massive fan, and it was his debut, and I think he really deserved his shot. And he did miss 5 tackles. He made 7, and like on that alone, you want to mark him down. But I thought playing out of position, playing what is essentially the open side flanker when we had our fetcher at 8, which I know Rassie likes, but Elstad would have not played in, like, when you make your debut, I really want you to play in what you know is your role and your job and your bread and butter, and that's what Pieter-Steph du Toit does. So I see them both in the same place, and you want to rest Pieter-Steph du Toit, you put Elstad in. So I feel for him, like he slipped a couple of tackles, but he did a lot of graft. Like he chased a lot of, like that a lot of times you'll see him chasing, like he put in everything he had, and he emptied the tank, and I'm pretty happy. It's very difficult to mark him up, like just purely on the missed tackles point of view. He's learning a new defensive system with a couple of new players in that defensive role. So like I'm making excuses, but I think there's a lot of things to consider. So I'm going to mark him on a 6 for his performance, and I really hope he gets another shot. I think from a squad point of view, and from us as the Springboks, I think we could really use a player like him, because we can't keep doing what we're doing to Pieter-Steph du Toit, and we can absolutely rest him and put Elstad in the place and absolutely dominate. So yeah, 6 out of 10, and I hope we see him again soon. Like I'm a massive fan, so I think he's going to do well.
Yeah, I'm happy with 6 as well, I must say. I think we both expected a lot more from him, and that debut jitters probably got to him, and I'd like to have him played the game a little bit on the edge a little bit, which we know him to play, but I think because it's that debut, you're too scared to play it on the edge, because you also don't want to be known as that guy that who's always playing on the edge and getting he's known as a man, we both know he's known as a man that he gets cards and this and that, his discipline's not the best. I think that is in the back of his mind and kept him sort of in his shell a little bit. But other than that, 4 carries, 1 less than Luert, who's a seasoned campaigner in a Bok jersey, which is not bad. He's made 7 tackles, he slips 5, we understand that. I would actually like to see the situation which he slipped those 5 in, because I think that plays a big role as well.
They're pretty tight, and he shot up on 2 occasions that I remember.
Yeah.
So it's more like a decision-making space.
And sometimes I think it's situational as well, which is quite a big thing with that. I'm happy with 6 out of 10. I would love to see him again. I reckon that he's easier Dani Rousseau type player, which we used a few times in our years.
Comfortably, yeah.
He can play on the flank, he can play as a lock pretty easily. I think he's a guy that the Springboks need for the future. So for me, give him another chance and let's see what he does. And I'm pretty sure his second game would be a lot more comfortable than what he was on Saturday.
I think also, like, you talk about him playing on the edge, I think it's also like what roles are being given. He definitely would have been given that role. Like, Evan would have had that role, Peter Toy would have had that role. I think it'd more been a case of, this is what your job is, you're playing out of position, this is what I expect from you. So I don't think he would have been too much on the edge because of that, because he's trying to manage his actual sort of space in a new place. So yeah, but again, like, I'm quite a big fan, and I think he deserves his shot. So I might be sugarcoating a little bit more than I should, but looking forward to seeing his next game. I think that's going to be the crackerjack.
Cool. So sixes all round with hope for the future. Next up, we've got the other flank, Peter Toy. Sharky, I think at one stage almost felt like he did his rating already, but let's go.
Yeah, I want to give him an 8.
I'm giving him 8. I'm not even going to say too much about it.
Okay.
It's Peter Toy, it's 8.
I'll give him a 9.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding.
I'll give him a 10.
I'll give him an 8. He's for someone that I didn't want to see move into the flanking position, like, he's made that position his own. He's probably the second best blindside flanker in the world, because I think Pablo Montero might be trumping him there. I think he's incredible at the moment. He's doing his job. The only gripe I have is that he's playing too much, and like, he gives absolutely.
That's not his fault, though.
Hey, man. Yes, yeah. Welcome to our diseases, but yeah, I did a good job. I thought he defended well. I thought he played well. I thought he linked well. I think you can't really fault him too much. He didn't make his mammoth 28 tackles in a game, but it wasn't a game where that was needed, and I thought he added a lot of value on the park. So yeah, I'd give him. What did I give him? 8.
Yeah.
8, 9.
Yeah, he's an 8 for me. He's just. I don't think we have to do.
And what about his rugby?
Oh. His rugby's a 9 probably, but anyway. No, listen, for me, he didn't have to really. I don't think we had to do too much defending in the game.
No, not a lot.
Like, if you had to overall first and second half, defending wise, that's probably why he didn't make 28 tackles, because he didn't really need to make 28. But with the ball in hand, without the ball, he's everywhere, all the time, every time. I know your gripes with him being on the side. Well, your gripes in the beginning with him being on the side, but I think we understand it now.
Totally,
we understand it now, and
what do I know?
we understand it now, and I think he's an 8. He's our I think he's our main stalwart for the World Cup. I think, like, it's almost like when you look at football and we say, you build teams around certain players. I think you build teams around Peter Toy.
Especially our loose trio. He's starting to become that glue. He's starting to become that guy that binds the whole group together. So
I think he's that guy where you go, who's the first 3 names in your list? I think he's the first one right now.
There's no doubt about it.
Right now, he's the first one you put in your team sheet, and you go, right, the rest, let's see what we can build around it. Yeah, how do we balance it right now?
Cool. Going on to the 8th man, Francois Lowe.
Not everyone's favourite guy, is he?
No, but having watched him play for Bath this year, and he played quite a bit at 8, and then watching Marcel Coetzee, like, if there was anyone that was going to play at 8, I thought Marcy was going to be that guy. Like, Marcel Coetzee has been incredible. He plays 6, 7, and 8 comfortably and well. I thought Francois Lowe, off that form, was probably not the best shout at 8. He has been in the system, so he understands defensively, but he's also played at 8. And I think not having a fetcher also affect that. But he then became the man going to the ball. Like, he went to the ball and he played 8. I thought his steals were great. I think he made 3, and I thought they were very important. He's very experienced in the way that he goes for the ball, like, at the right time. Like, he's got that. Like, there'll be times where he won't go for the ball and he'll free himself up, and then when the time comes, he'll just hit it. So I thought he's pretty good. I thought, I would have done the loose trio differently if I picked it in terms of who starts and how it works. But I thought Francois Lowe was pretty handy, and I would give him probably a 7.5 out of 10. I really thought he did a good job. You can't really fault him on it, and he made a couple of critical plays, like the 2 steals that he made. They were in very, very massive positions. The one we scored from, and the one we should have scored from, which came from a poor call from the backs.
Yeah, so I'm happy with 7.5. I think underrated as hell. I think gets a lot of stick for how he plays, especially in the Springbok jersey. I don't think a lot of people actually see his role when he plays back home in Bath and sort of that. Like, making 11 tackles, missing 2. I think he's done a job already. 3 turnovers, like you say, 2 crucial turnovers as well out of the 3. 7.5. We spoke about it beforehand. We're getting on here, and we say I see him as one of Rassie's definites. He's going to the World Cup, because you know what you're getting out of Francois every week, and it's highly unlikely it's less than 7 out of 10.
Yeah.
He needs to be injured or just really having a bad day to be anything close than, anything less than 7 out of 10. So for me, Francois Lowe is just, it's his last crack at it, I think. I don't think you'll see him in a Springbok jersey after this year. He's 34 already, so I don't know if he's
young, man, sparkling.
Yeah, I think in rugby terms, yeah, but I think he's on the thing. I think 7.5 is good enough for him, and I think he's on the plane to Japan already as well.
So I think this performance was the swing vote between him and Marcy in a way, which is a bit of a bummer, because I really want to see Marcel Coetzee at the World Cup. But I think Marcel Coetzee he'll show his worth a little bit later, but it might be too late. But I think that performance at 8, which is key for what we need, because we don't have another 8 besides Dwayne. I don't think Kwagga Smith will play at 8, even though he has for the Lions. And who else have we got? We've got Marcel Coetzee, we've got Francois Lowe. We've got no other 8, to be honest, because Warren Whiteley is not going to make it.
And the Dupree brothers seems to be in the mix at the moment.
Yeah, I think that's super mayday, call that. So I think that was huge for him in terms of his World Cup aspirations. I think he was ahead, but I think this 8 cemented it. So.
Cool. Going into the back line, and a very exciting young player. On everyone's lips is new Yankees on the block, Mr. Herschel Yankees on debut. What did we make of that performance?
How long have we been calling for him?
I don't know. I don't listen to you too much. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. I think it was second game into Super Rugby.
Yeah, you did mention very early these are Springbok shouts.
Second game into Super Rugby, I was saying, get this guy into a Springbok jersey. Like, even if he doesn't go to the World Cup, start grooming this kid now, because there was something about him that sort of was different to every other scrummy that we have in this country. And for me, the main thing was his delivery, his ball delivery, which is spot on. It seems to be spot on every single time. It's at a good height, good pace, and it goes. And he never seems flustered at the back of a ruck. He always seems to know what to do. He knows where to position his pillars. He knows where to position, like, if he needs that extra man to come in to just give him half a second more for a box kick. He just seems so composed at the time. And I don't think you could have asked for a better debut in a Bok jersey than that. I mean, I think I saw something that could have been a stat. I think you might have thrown out, or someone else. I think since 1937, a scrum half that has debuted for the Bok scored a double on debut or something. Something silly.
It was probably Jared.
Like something silly like that. Like, it's absolutely crazy. Like, to score as a scrum half a double on your debut. Possibly could have had a third.
Yeah. Jeez, he pushed hard for that.
Possibly could have had a third as well.
I'm sure that must be one of the quickest tries on debut as well.
Jeez, that's a good shout. I actually can't think of the top of my head.
People out there, get that to us.
But yeah, I think it's I think if I don't give him a 9, people are going to have a heart attack or something like that. But I think that's one for the future. I mean, I don't even look at it World Cup basis right now. I'm just going for the future. If that's what we have in the bank, what more do you really want? You want another one like him to come off the bench. But other than that, that's it. That's what you want. So For me, I think Herschel he definitely put himself in a box, like in a World Cup mix, because now the pressure's on Faf and for Kobus to really, show what they're worth. But other than that, I think he can sit back now and go, right, I put that performance I need to put another performance like that in if I get another opportunity. But he's got everyone talking, and he's got Ratzi thinking, and I think the coaching staff thinking now as well. And for me, I'll give him a 9 this week. I think he's my top scoring player of the week.
Sure, without doubt. You can't not. I mean, debut like that, 2 tries, man of the match, 5-try win, manage things. Plus on the bench against the All Blacks this week, which we didn't expect. So I think that's a testament to his play. I think it's important as scrum off place, especially where we've created our scrum off role now around Faf, which we will discuss next week, I'm sure, in terms of how he plays and my feelings on it. I just think he's a little bit erratic, but I thought Herschel, he made 100% of his tackles, so that's huge, being in that space, being his size, and dealing with those guys. I was very, very impressed with it. I thought there were a couple of times in the beginning that things were a little bit slow in terms of the kick, but he was setting to make sure his kick was right, so you can't really fault him. And I thought a few times in terms of hitting his targets, they weren't bang on. You want to hit that space, and I think he did a lot better than Faf does often, strangely enough. So it wasn't perfect. It was exceptionally good though, and I'm totally with you. He must be in the mix. He's on the radar now, so the dynamic's going to change. The All Blacks have had 7 days to work with that. They know what they're going to get with Faf, and they can work on that. But then they're going to now have to work with Herschel and try and figure him out. I think I wouldn't be surprised if Herschel gets a good 20 minutes on Saturday.
Yeah, I agree with
deserved. Now onto the other Yankees, the one everyone loves to hate. Maybe not so much this week. What do you guys think?
Yeah, he's still got the haters out there, and I can only roll my eyes sometimes. I thought he managed the game very well. There's a massive difference between a starting 10 that manages the game from a starting point of view and a finishing 10. And I thought Elton did well with tactically kicking wise. Our kicking errors came from 15 mostly, and a couple of other guys. And I thought Elton managed the game well. I thought his passing is pretty good. He plays on the gain line. He plays really, really, really hard and flat. And we've got good front foot ball, and we had a good confident 9 that was hitting his targets more often than not. So that obviously helps the game. I thought with Andre Essen's play, I thought that might have hindered Yankees a little bit, but he did manage to bypass him a couple of times and work through it a little bit. But when it was on, it's on. He's the best attacking 10 we have. If there's an opportunity, if you want someone to take that opportunity, I'll give it to Elton Yankees. There's no shadow of a doubt. I think Andre Pollard's really good at sort of manipulating and constructing a game and a game plan, where I think Elton Yankees is one of the best attackers and the best finishers we have. And he was cruising, and I thought he did really, really well. I'm gonna give him a 9 out of 10. I was really impressed. I was, and people are gonna hate it because I love to hate him, as you know. But I thought he managed the game, and I'm gonna give him a 9 out of 10 more because everyone loves to watch him fail, and he didn't fail, and we did well, and we scored 5 tries. If we scored 5 tries with Pollard playing, everyone would be like, yes, this guy's my hero. So I thought he's really, really good.
I'm not going to give him a 9.
We have to disagree.
I'm going to give him an 8 though. Solid. Maybe an 8.5 even. Because he's the guy I love to hate. But damn, he was good at what he did on Saturday. I think people like to nitpick on him. And I think that's the big thing. He likes to get nitpicked. So people are going to hate us for giving him the marks that we have. Because they're going to throw the fact that he missed 6 tackles in the game. They're going to throw that and be like, oh, but he wasn't great on defense, or his delivery of pass to the man on the outside isn't consistent, because you see those those things going around on Twitter every single day. But at the end of the day, what do you want your fly-half to do? Control the game? Did he do that? Yes. Did he kick his points? Yes, except for the one from the halfway. We know Alton's not a man with a massive boot. He's not a Franz Steyn. He's not a Pat Lambie when we had him kicking 50, 60 meters. You know, he's not that type of fly-off. But what he did is he kicked his goals. He kicked it from tight angles.
Yeah, a lot of those kicks weren't easy kicks.
No, and especially I think most of them weren't naturally for the left footer. If could be wrong there, but I think more easier for the right footer. If
two of them were.
Yeah, and other than that, he put it over with relative ease. And yes, people are going to say,
very handy off the tee.
People are going to say, oh, but it's home ground. You should know the ground. Believe me, it's an international game. There's always an added bit of pressure where an easy kick becomes a very challenging kick for that. So for me, if Alton can play like that every week in a box jersey, I will not open my mouth about him ever again. Because now that's the standard he's sort of set for me. And if Alton can be like that from World Cup into the Lions tour and everything, be my guest. He can be first choice or second choice fly off in that Bok team any day of the week. I have no issue with it. But that's what I expect from him now. I want to see that week in, week out from him.
Totally. And there's something that I do want to mention though. If like people like to nitpick and try to sort of smash him as much as they can, but you show me one thing that he did wrong, and that's the thing. You see, it was no one area. Like everyone's like, he missed his. There's no. They just want to discredit him because they're like, it's Alton Yankees. You know, he didn't play well. You can't do that against All Blacks.
Keegan and I spoke about that last night, and I compared it to Paul Pogba. Guy comes in at United, obviously got a huge price tag in his head, and I mean he hasn't been the best most of the times, but good game, people still slate him.
Yeah.
Their own supporters, United fans, do it themselves, even their legends.
Just because they want to.
Just because they want to. So I think, it's difficult to shake that tag for certain players, and then it also goes the other way around where players have 2-3 good games. Once they put the Bok jersey on, then they sort of go to shit, and people still rate them. So it's a difficult. I suppose that's human nature, maybe.
Possibly.
Cool. Going on to the wing number 11, Mapimpi. What did we make of him?
I'm a big fan. I think Deontay didn't have the greatest Super Rugby season, but I think he's the book starting 11. So, like, I understand that Deontay's injured. Mapimpi's definitely the best finishing and the most improved 11 we've got in the country. So, I was very happy. I think he does a lot of work on defense, and I think that was his biggest weakness, and I think he's doing a lot better. First game of the season didn't do exceptionally well. I think he made 75% of his tackles or something like that. So, I think wasn't ideal, didn't get enough ball. I think that's the thing. Mapimpi is a ruthless finisher. He's exactly the same as Deontay. Like, you want to put him in space because he's going to hunt that line and he's going to work for it, and we just don't give him that opportunity. The one thing that I will say is he doesn't go missing when he doesn't get ball. Like, he does work a lot. He grafts a lot. He chases hard. He loves being in that jersey. He loves playing rugby, and it's evident. It's difficult to rate him highly because he didn't do too much and he missed a couple of tackles. But like, it's challenging when he didn't get to do what his actual job is. So I'm gonna give him a 6.5 out of 10. Maybe give him a 7, but 6.5 I think is probably fair in terms of what happened on Saturday.
I think it's fair. I was thinking about 6.5 as well. I don't think he wasn't terrible. It wasn't bad. He did his the job that he had. He did it as well as he could. I think it's a problem with South Africa. We all know it here. Our wings don't get enough of the ball, and when they do get the ball, it's not in space. So the poor lads got to do sort of extra work.
Which steamroll someone.
A lot of other wingers get ball in space and they're able to
open the taps.
They can make magic happen. Our wingers don't really work in that situation. So we are, I think we're fortunate enough to have finishing wingers at this point in time.
We've got a good few. Yeah.
We've got a few that can finish. Defensively is their problem, I think, at the moment. I think that's where we doubt them on defense. But Mpimpi, I think, did his job, and I think 6.5 is good enough for him for this week. And let's see him again. Let's see what he does.
Yeah, I also think our defensive setup is quite interesting, and I think if anyone's exposed on that, it's our wingers. Our outside backs are definitely exposed because they're given the opportunity to shoot, and I think the communication is not 100% there. So it's quite challenging, because you feel the guy's being erratic when he shoots up, but that's part of their plan. So yeah, but I'd like to see him get more ball and more space. Like, he's deadly and he makes yards and he fights hard. So we'll see. We'll see this weekend. He's playing again.
Okay, going on into the centres, middle of the park, Andre Esterhuizen.
I thought it was solid. Like, when I say solid, I mean...
You just said off air he was cuck.
Oh, well. He was cuck until Sharky told me his stats, and I was like, no. Do you know what? I don't know what Andre's role. Do you know my biggest problem with Andre Esterhuizen? Is he supposed to be another Damien in the squad? Can someone tell me what his role is? Like, what is he? Not a 12's role. I don't want a 12's role. I know what a 12's role is. What is his role in a Springbok jersey? Because my problem is this. If he's supposed to be a Damien, he's basically doing what Damien does. If he's not supposed to be doing what Damien is, then what is he supposed to be doing? Someone please tell me. Because I look at him week in and week out when he has played for the Springboks, and I go, he hasn't been that shit, but he hasn't been that great. So what are we expecting from him? Is he supposed to be big on D? Is he supposed to be a big ball carrier? We know that's what he does for the Sharks. He can carry ball. But he doesn't really carry that much ball in a Bok jersey. And I'm very lost with what his role is in the squad. Like, in the side, what do we expect from him? Like, I'll give him a 6 out of 10, just because of the fact I don't know what to do with him. I don't know what his actual thing is. Because you saw Frans Steyn come on the field, and all of a sudden there was a little bit of, you could see what he was trying to create.
Yes.
Give space on the outside. He was trying to create on the inside. Maybe, pop it to a loose forward or something. He carries big as well. You can almost see Frans Steyn fitting in that mold a lot easier than what an Esterhuizen does. And I'm only giving him a 6 out of 10 because is there anything more that we expect from him? I don't know. I really don't know. I don't understand the dynamic with him right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna give him a 5. He was one of 2 players that I really thought didn't perform on Saturday. Defensively, he was pretty handy, and bearing in mind he's got to deal with Sama Karevi and have to take a lot of traffic. I think our midfield took a lot of traffic through between Esterhuizen and Kriel. There was a lot of traffic coming through with Karevi and Kurudrani and a couple of the Lucies. So I just thought he's carrying and reaching that gain line for a guy as big as him. I thought we should have got a little bit better, and I think it was highlighted more when Francie Steyn came on. And I must be honest, I think it's an experience thing that gets Francie over the line a little bit more, and obviously like time in the saddle. I think, and that's the big thing. We've got to understand that like starting the game and finishing the game, you're completely different. So it does matter. But I think his core role, and I think Australia were waiting for that. They knew that that's what's going to happen with Esterhuizen, and he was going to run. I think he runs more of a crash ball line than Delendi will, because he's so big and strong and he looks to offload. And I just think the offloads didn't come. I've been a bit outspoken about Jesse Kriel in the past, but I think he's playing pretty good at 13 at the moment, and he runs a good hard line. Like, he plays a good rugby mind, and he's a big strong runner. So we could have used both of them a little bit better. And I also think, like you find a little bit towards the end, is that end of the first half, his Yankees was also sending the ball past Esterhuizen, which is definitely a game plan and was discussed. It wasn't an off-the-cuff move, but there was more space out there. So I don't know if he was a little slightly out of position or what the case may be. I just think that he's got a shitload of work to do if he's going to go to the World Cup. I think Francois Steyn, and also because Francois Steyn plays this season alone, has played 10, 12, 13 and 15 for Montpellier. So I'm a bit worried. I think Francis must stay at 12. I think that's his primary, but he also covers options where Esterhuizen not so much. So I wasn't overly excited by his performance.
Cool. Next to him, Jesse Creel.
Yeah, Jesse played well. Top counter in terms of tackles with 14, but he did miss some. So Lewitt wins there. There was a lot of traffic. I thought he did really well. I think he's in good form at the moment. I think he runs hard. I think he's defending better. We're in a great position with and Creel at 13. I think Jesse definitely gets a 7, maybe a 7.5. Like, I thought he was pretty handy on the day. There's not a hell of a lot more. Like, he was quiet-ish, but he did a lot of work. And you look at his numbers and you look at what else happened. Like, he did. You expect your 13 to do very good work defensively. Defensively, at 12 and 13, we managed really well, and at 10. So like the call often falls on your 13 for that. So if we want to talk up 13s for good defensive lines, and our defensive trio, like our inside backs and Creel did well, it's got to be there.
Yeah, I'm happy with Creel getting a good old 7. I think he was solid. I think he did his job, made tackles. Defensive wise, he did his job there. He's also another player that looks for work for me.
Yes.
He's never a guy that really shies away from work around. So he'll get stuck and he'll find work if he needs to. He's always busy. I like that in a player. I don't mind that, because a lot of players in that situation would rather be like, not look for work, and then they'll just be like, oh, but I just didn't have anything to do. And I think with Jesse Creel is you got an honest player. You've got an honest rugby player in him. And players that are honest and will go and do the grind, which they don't have to. I mean, you need that in a squad, and I think Jesse is a squad player. I'm not saying that he's a guy that mustn't start. I'm just saying he's a good, solid squad player, and you need those guys in your squad, and I think he's one of those. And him and are easily, for me, our 2 13s. And I don't think he has to really worry about it too much if he just keeps his form going that he had with the Bulls in Super Rugby, and what he keeps producing in a Springbok jersey. If you watch him in a Springbok jersey, it's tough to name a test where he was really poor in.
Oh, good work at it.
Yeah, but he's a solid player at the end of the day, and I also feel that he's a guy that you need to put in space more. And the age-old Springbok problem is we don't put people into space, which hinders him and sort of makes him an average player a lot of the times because we don't put him in the space.
I agree totally. I'm 100% with you there. Like, we don't, our outside backs, like, we're missing 3 players. Like, the 3 players have to work to get in the space and do some stuff, as opposed to getting put in that space and then we'll kill people because we've got deadly guys in our back 3. And I think also something key which I'd like to find out is Jesse Creel's ruck attendance. Like, he does a lot of work, does a lot of that graft, and he fills in a loose trio place when we spread it wide, which doesn't happen often, as we mentioned, but when we do, like, he does secure the ball. So yeah, good performance.
Cool. Sibusisa and Nkosi on the other wing.
Job done. Few slightly errors, like silly errors, I think, for me. I think at times, for me, and all our wingers, and it's not just Nkosi, and it's Mpimpi, and it's Dianti, and I can't really say Cheslin because he just came into the system under Rassi, and I think at 2 games or whatever under Rassi. Defense is always my issue with him. It's always been my issue. Can we tackle? Finishing, no problem. Put those boys in space, they finish for you all day. I think Nkosi, for me, falls into that Mpimpi bracket for me. So much better if we can just use him better. But love him for the fact that he also looks for work.
He works hard.
He looks for work.
Yeah.
So I have no issue with him being in the setup, being in the team, playing or whatever. I think I can I would love to just rate him better if we could do more and give him better ball and let him do what he does best. And we've had this chat before that we possibly think he's probably better 11 than 14. And that would be quite interesting because I'd love to see him at 11 and maybe Cheslin at 14 and see what that happens in that situation. Will it happen before the World Cup?
No.
Probably not. But it's a nice concept to sort of play around with. And I love with our wings that they are so versatile enough that they can cover each other and do things like that. But 6.5 out of 10. I don't know. I can't give him more than that. I don't really see. People are going to say, I know you called the forward pass on Herschel.
His first try was forward, there's no doubt about it.
Okay, so you're giving Herschel's forward. But could hit the space well, suck the defender in.
But he's a winger looking for options.
Exactly.
Which we also don't have.
Which we don't have a lot. No. So saying what, 6.5 out of 10, I think that's an average okay for him.
Yeah, I'm going to give him a 7. Like, I thought he performed quite well. I think he does a lot of work. I think defensively he's pretty solid. I still think he's learning his role at 14 under Rassi, but also as a 14, and I think he's getting progressively better week in and week out. So I thought it was a pretty good performance first up. I thought he does look for a lot of work. Like, he works really hard, good under the high ball. So I'm happy to give him a 7. And he's being rested this weekend purely because for me, Rassi's like, that's my 14. Done, gone. Come to the World Cup, stay fit, you're golden. So I think that's done and dusted. So
Cheslin scores 2 tries this weekend.
Colby's going to the World Cup too, but won't be a starting right wing. So I just think I think that's huge. I was very happy with his performance and linked well. I thought he linked really nicely, looked for options, and 7's good.
Cool. Going into the back, the 15 Warwick Galant. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
He's lucky to get a 5 from me.
Yeah,
he's lucky to get a 5 from me.
He was my second poor performer of the day. I just between the thing is like there's 4 or 5 things he does bad to 1 thing right, which very much like is something I've been saying about Willie Leroux for a long time. Is very erratic. Galant he needs to physically play a lot of games to get into that groove. He's one of those players, and unfortunately we don't have that time now leading into the World Cup. I think he's a really good player, and when he's on. I just think his decision making was not great, and his execution wasn't great after that. So you can make a poor decision, but you could execute it well, and you could kind of paper over the cracks. I wasn't happy. I thought 5 from me. Like, he got involved and he attacks really well. Like, that's where he really excels. But I think as a 15, as a total, I think where he struggles a little bit, and not struggles. I just think he's struggling to get into that form. So a 5 out of 10. I thought if anyone kind of played himself out of the team, he was one of them.
Yeah, like I said, he's lucky to get a 5 from me. Like, I thought he broke on attack. There were the very few opportunities. He did break the line. He got a few got through a few tackles and that. But technical awareness for me was just, there was a few times he just got exploited at the back, and it's just him being positionally in the wrong position, him reading the situation wrong. And I just feel if he wanted to stay claim on us being a second fullback in that squad, he sort of played himself. I agree with you. Played himself out of that position, because if something does happen, as much as your favourite man, Willie Leroux, is going to be the starting 15 at this thing, as if Willie picks up an injury, are we sort of happy enough with Galant being the backup 15? And I think this sort of proved us saying no at this point in time. Ches and Colby is probably going to be, if he's in that squad, he's probably going to be backup 15 to Willie.
And then France.
If Frans Steyn isn't going to play maybe at centre for us. So it's a real... I think, unfortunately for Galant, he's done more damage to his World Cup chances than to actually boost it in a way. There's a lot for him to work on. And it just shows you the difference between Super Rugby and international rugby. how those little errors become massive errors. And in Super Rugby, you can still get away with it at times. International rugby doesn't allow that. The little errors become massive errors. And I think, unfortunately for Gelan, it's back to the drawing board for him and sort of really trying to focus and fine-tune those little areas for him. I'm not saying he will never be a Bok again. I'm saying he needs to really fine-tune it so he can be that future 15 that people are hoping him to be. And if he works on it, the door's open. There's time. He's got time on his hands, at least, compared to everyone else.
I still think he's in the mix. I don't necessarily think he'll go to the World Cup, but I still think we'll see him again this year before the World Cup. And all depends on what happens with Damien Willemse. Because we don't... And I will say one thing, I'm very surprised we didn't get Dylan Lates on the park for at least 30 minutes. I think Lates would have settled a little bit more and been a bit better in the back, but with 30 minutes to go, we were still in a comfortable
space.
Probably
understands his game. He understands his game better. He knows his limitations, what he's good at, what he struggles with, things like that.
Cool. And then before we wrap it up, just one more. The water boy.
Oh, great.
Kulisi.
What a water boy.
Surely we can get a rating for him.
Yes, man. I'll tell you, 10 out of 10.
People are giving him crap for that.
Because they're idiots.
Yeah, I saw a couple of people on Twitter.
People are giving him shit about, it's a bad PR stunt and blah, blah, blah. It's like, have you not watched World Rugby for the last 10 years? Yeah. You've had previous captains that are injured doing the same role. You've had more senior players than captains being water boys. Yeah. I remember seeing Pocock being flippin' water boy on how many occasions for Australia already.
And Richie Mo'anga's debut for the All Blacks, Bowden Barrett was water boy. And kicking coach looking after, helping him through that process. I mean, it's just a bunch of idiots. Kulisi, he's also one of those guys. He could do everything. And then people would be like, but
some
he's
people
not
just
great.
like him, some people just don't.
I think he's great. I think he's showing leadership. I think he's heavily involved in chats as well there and providing a leadership role with Eben and the rest of the guys on Saturday. And he wants to be involved, and I won't lie, I'm a little bit bummed that he hasn't travelled to New Zealand, but he's back training with Western Province and he will play a Currie Cup game or two before getting called up.
He's playing this weekend, I think.
Really?
Yeah, I think I saw somewhere he's playing this weekend.
Nice. I'm happy with that too, I think there's a lot to be added, a lot of value to be added with players that are managed properly and players that are involved with the team and the squad, and he wants to be involved, and I think he's invaluable for us. I really do, and I think we played better and had a lot more value on the field with him being there than without. So that whole PR thing, it was powerful for me.
I think people also, I think the fact that just him being in that role is also takes a lot of pressure off guys like Eben.
Totally.
And things like that. As much as Eben is captain and there's a few senior guys, Peter Steff is seen as a senior now and Beast is a senior.
Beast only talks in emergencies.
Exactly. If shit really hits the fan, then Beast sounds like the guy. If he talks, everyone shut the hell up and listen to the old man and let him sort the shit out, and if he sorts the shit out, then we go on our merry way. But I think that's going to be really key. I mean, I agree with you. I think he would have been a great guy to have in New Zealand. As much as Dwayne is a captain himself, and I think Dwayne not when I say demand respect, I think he's earned so much respect, so when he talks, everyone listens. I think just having Sion as the water boy on the side or whatever, if Sia talks, Dwayne can sort of just worry about his own game a little bit. And he's not a guy that needs to worry about his own game, but he doesn't really have to do all the talking all the bloody time, in certain situations. And I think it'll be interesting to see what our side does without that leadership on the side of the field and coming in.
I think also you've got to understand, you see a different side of the game there.
Yeah.
And see as a current player, knowing the current things being in the crunch, not necessarily from a coaching point of view, but from a playing point of view, looking at from coaching eyes. And then having coach chatting to him, I thought it was pretty...
Makes a huge difference.
Yeah, totally. I think it can only grow us as a team, and it did. So I'm all for it. I'm looking forward to this weekend though.
Yeah, 100%.
Cool. Thank you guys. That concludes the first test podcast for the Pundits. Everyone at home, thanks for watching and listening. We'll see you guys next week.
Cheers. Ciao, ciao.